What's up? I was gonna watch this. I've been looking around. What can I watch? I know I should probably not be watching anything. And like not dying would probably be a good idea. But this looked interesting, and I just thought I'd, instead of like doing the things I've been doing mostly in my videos, which are probably getting a little monotonous, I'm thinking, because especially, I'm just working through it. I think it's now I can maybe just like keep doing it that, but then build more like things. Like I wrote down Pacific Triangle. I want to talk about that, but not now because that's not enough. Like I want to just like continue to look into things until I am not just like making utterly on the fly videos without anything but like a single entry point like I have been doing that I think because I'm kind of running into like a tougher resistance of the path that it's just it needs more like focus and attention to really figure out what's going on that I can't quite give in in video format. So part of me as I speak as it like I pretty much my content is just a continuous like I'm opening this video even though it's just gonna be a reaction. I presume I'll call it Steve Scully reacts to songs of the molten earth. Appreciate this. This looks awesome. So let's just go ahead and hit play by Amit J. At least that's where post is. Songs of the molten earth. I'm just gonna mute the song, so sorry, because I wanted to actually, this was it. This was interesting. Let's go ahead and slow it down to half speed. Notably, this current and this current are going underneath this here somewhere. It's kind of interesting because this is coming this way and then it's going this way, like a boom boom. Where over here is wrapping around this segment. Kind of like Laurentia, although it's not like wrapping back this way because Laurentia pretty much goes around both sides. And then flowing. Not that this is related to what I've been talking about. I just thought this was really interesting. It's hard to tell what happens next. Like does it flow underground and like fall into some less filled region of the magma chamber to stabilize? Does it flow that way? Like, is this all on top of the surface but beneath? Like newly forming. This is pretty much how a continental shelf forms. Is there's a region that just has currents flowing under it with like massive quantity. Notice the hexagon of that sheet, and then it even. I wonder. Let's go back to the sheet real quick. Pentagon, really, but kind of. It's even got that like Mariana Trench shape. I don't want to go into detail about things I've been talking about, but generally speaking, here and here, here's a hexagonal type structure within one of the boundaries is a Mariana Trench shape. Here I just thought it was interesting. I think it's something that just happens by currents. I'm not saying that this is the like process revealed here, but maybe there's something within it that does relate. So it's hard to say what happens after there. Like it flows over here somewhere. Unless they show it, but then they jump to here, so it's hard to say. The boiling location, this is like a bond breaking between adjacent polygons, where then currents can upwell easier, that then happen on different scales to the point where it happens. Maybe I should just go ahead and take this over here, this over here. Like here that was happening, here that was happening, and that was adjacent to here where it was happening on both of those. This was adjacent as well, as I've been talking about. So something of this nature was going on in those regions, just massive, like tearing the land apart. That was more continental shelf on at least a portion. Like it's separated enough to open a like region for the energy to propagate the current between the continents. But then like it started bubbling more so under Papua New Guinea, like into Papua New Guinea, or whatever exactly that region. Sorry if that's not still Papua New Guinea. I keep calling the whole thing Papua New Guinea. I think the western region is not. Okay, into that region though, and literally, but at that point, this stretch was open enough where like the boundary of the bubbling was out in the ocean over here, generally speaking. At least the like visible remnants of it. Let's see. I don't want to. I don't want to. This makes me think of like a current just hitting like a resistance and splashing up, just like. I'm not sure if that's what's driving this one, but it to me is what happened over here. I forget what I already forgot. There's a super volcano over here somewhere. Maybe it was here. Let me look in super volcano, California, Long Valley. There it is. Okay, it's up here. Ew, it's very related to this magnetic field from Yellowstone that branches these ways over through here, through here, through here, through here, and then kind of across this, generally to here, where it then flows down this way. Also, where the current itself was happening here. Here it is. This upper boundary that goes between all these like nova centers here, making this face with two eyeballs and a mouth and a nose. It's kind of sad, somber looking face. Then Long Valley Caldera is here. Let's just real quick go to California Mirror. California Mirror. So apparently there's a super volcano generally over here, it looked like. Let's find it. Long Valley Caldera. Notably in a sort of shape like that was. That slab that it shows. I think it's that one. This one. Where is it? Is it? It might not even be in this stream. Oh, look at it breaking apart. Ew. This factory of shapes that all... It would be so cool if it was like a sphere laid out flat in like shapes. uh, okay. Let's see where this is though. This mouse. Okay, it is pretty close to that one. That one there. Let's get rid of this. Labels, it's right here. Just kind of in line maybe with this. Maybe it's related to this like divot where it appears like current went in generally this way, but maybe it flowed also over here and just like ballooned a counter pressure in this region. I was kind of thinking like, how did this happen also? But because there's currents that are more appearing to be like in the relationship of this to this, like it doesn't make sense that a current over here is like shaping this one. So it makes more sense that like currents related to both are related to both of their shapings. So my thought is maybe there's a generally a first current out at beyond this boundary that's coming down through North America along the boundary of Laurentia, and then there's a second current that comes up along its side, but in so doing it like interacts with that one and separates it and causes part of that current to come down this way. So this current is partly coming down this way, mostly coming down this way, but then the interaction of this current with this current causes basically a pressure this way. Like it kind of, the tendency to go this way from when there's pressure over here as it flows this way, it like basically causes a back pressure by just being more material over in that direction across time in a way that just would cause a tendency to also flow down this way as well. And this way, it looks like, but also to physically cross this other stream enough to maybe have an influence on the like this region, like specifically to create like a sort of crossing stream boundary that even is, now that I've noticed, now that I look at it, kind of wave-like. Like what's going on over here, a current going this way with a cross current that's basically propagating this way, that then when it collides with the current is caused to flow like this. Maybe something of that nature, like there's generally a current about like this wide, right around here, or even, yeah, right around here to here, like a current flowing through here. Or wait. Yeah. And it fans out here, I guess. Yeah, like this, here to here, where it fans out, it wraps around, and then just like fans the material out. In this region where it had more space to, I guess. Not sure why. Which kind of does like and have a sort of connection across here to here. That's the Grand Canyon, right? Or is this? This is the Grand Canyon. Here is Las Vegas. Lake Mead, probably. Here, maybe. Well, I guess that's not the Grand Canyon exactly, since there's so much water in it. It's probably, maybe it's here. Definitely Vegas. Okay, Vegas is visible from the sky this far, this far. Interesting. Okay, I guess so is. I think that's LA. Is this LA? Oh. This must be LA. And then San Diego. And then probably a boundary in Tijuana. Maybe. Anyway, current this way though. Spans out potentially. Let's look at this. My interpretation here was that there's a current beforehand. There's a current coming down this way, generally. Generally speaking, a current coming down this coastline along the boundary of Laurentia, accreting new continental shelf as it goes. That then there's a second current going on the east side of Laurentia that cross here. And when they cross, they begin to basically cause the current coming down this boundary to vibrate out of sync. So instead of going straight, it starts to fan out into a, like, basically like a flame-like shape here. And then reconverge. But then it doesn't just do that. It also, like, causes the current to flow up and around and into these regions up here and up into different paths to this one specifically to basically carve out channels, maybe here, that are dependent on like differentiation, basically to crystal differentiate the mantle material that's flowing by the bending of it passing through a current here to take the densest materials and just bounce them right back like they hit a wall practically. Boing. But then the more subtle ones just flowed through, were more able to just physically pass through the porosities of just the pressure pushing behind them. So they continued to flow, but then they bent off of the path as well and created like a differentiation region of here, 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 and then over here where like the materials are much more like subtly composed of sand, like the grains of sand become more fine grained, Over here, it just becomes more like granite, mountainous terrain. So there's something of that nature going on. I'm not sure what exactly here. So if that's the case, then it would basically divide at this point and go one way out here and back to over here, and then another way here, generally here. So I'm not sure if it's exactly there where that begins. I think that's more like up here. But it's where it's crossing. There's a cross stream here. One current, this current coming out on the close side, and then a inner current that kind of bends around it, but also through it is like caught in it. Some of the material gets caught in it, so it basically separates as it crosses into its furthest possible distance where it didn't actually get caught in the current because it had like a leading current getting caught in the current. But then in so doing, it almost like an army advancing, it allows the rest of the following army to just advance further this way. But then like they just keep getting caught in the current, causing essentially a maximum distance that it can reach, and then over here-ish, and then it basically fans back into a focal point again down here, where by fanning out this far it produces basically like a resistance to the current, so that this current over here also is like reaches a maximum point as it passes. And then that's like probably related to like I feel like there's a secondary current that just goes up this way, and the primary current coming this way was really only here. And then when this current crossed it, it physically was just turned at a 90-degree angle, which is kind of visible in the terrain itself here. It almost like ramped, because this was over here. This whole chunk of the Yucatan Peninsula was physically attached here before this process occurred. And none of this shape was like present. It's just got reshaped by these currents flowing like this. So then in the process, it ended up building up mounds that generally had a curvature to them because the currents were physically turning at a 90-degree angle within this region. Some of it just deflecting back, some of it going here, 90-degree angle, and some of it even going through into here, forward into this region. And this is where it then fans out because it passes this current, and this current has not really like produced the same pressures here, so instead this current is able to like dominate the region and just overwhelm its shaping. So it's pretty much shaped by this undercurrent of this current only, without this current interacting with it, although it does have a boundary down here over here where it's running into a current from over this way through underneath Africa that then basically went also into this region. So it basically has a boundary where it funnels, it widens where it can here, and then fans out as much as it can, meeting resistance and shaping its boundaries. And the flow itself shaping the boundary to be a flame shape because it flowed like a flame. And then over here, like the top of the flame, maybe even. I've thought of this as kind of being where the currents were focused. Like it really, by coming through this flame, they end up coming through like the tip here. So that like the most energy is propagating through the tip right here specifically. Which then goes right into Africa here. So it really has a strong current right through this region because of just the way the shapes were. But the currents themselves shape this, so that's whatever's going on here. Seems to just be like where the heat of this kind of compiled and is now contained. Like if it were to be a flame, then its heat rose above the flame and is now stored in the region above the flame. With some turbulence, maybe. Okay, I've made it all of a minute or two. Let's jump ahead where I was. Here we go. It's this kind of thing that really explains a lot. Like over here. It's just that shape. I was thinking, sorry, because it really doesn't seem. Yeah, I mean, this right here, basically a current pushing resistance this way, but then generally a second current flowing down here that's running into the resistance, but it's overwhelming it. So it's basically a mound builds up, but then the general trend from these locations is a current outward in a way that would probably resemble what's going on there, kind of features. This is basically what happened to shape this map. It's just on such a scale that it flowed, and it flowed below the surface of the earth, of the crust, above the mantle, below the crust, basically at the moho. It's running into resistance, so it's just pushing up slabs at an angle. It's just so much magma. Whoa, and then it bubbled. Whoa. That's crazy. It's like continuously breaking over some real steep drop, maybe. It's related to some energy change here. Like that's so drastic that it's causing just a bubbling from right there. Or it's just got a vent there specifically as well underneath the current. one of those finger type things where it's just dragging it, the currents are dragging it out, extending it, attaching new material to it. As long as it doesn't rip it away, like it could break away and flow out, be an island. Like at that point it was continental shelf and that was oceanic crust, but then if it got like pulled out and didn't sink in before the mantle material, before the magma solidified, the lava solidified. Sorry for my terminology adjustment as I try to appease geologists. Oh, there he goes again, use the wrong terms. Depending on where they are, etc. kind of things. The way I see it is mantle is just like a base material that then can differentiate by flows. Whoa. And usually becomes basalt if it's not like extensively differentiated, but then with enough differentiation, i.e. like eddies, currents that are not just laminar but have eddies in them, then it causes like a distribution of the masses more effectively than just a laminar flow. Although laminar flows probably also do it just across like a long period of time, where the flow like up here is dropping out maybe denser materials, and then over time become more just like essentially doing the same thing just in a different way. But eddies, currents flowing in a vortex, cause differentiation, which is really makes like local places like Girnar like they are. Oh my god, this is just wow. Just imagine that you're like a tiny person here, and this is continental shelf, like all of the coastline of some country, some region. And the earth is just expanding by releasing mantle between continental shelf. Of course, you can't really be that close to it. Probably the heat would be absurd. Had to be from significantly further away, but maybe like it seems like people might have been able to make it through the process. I mean, they clearly were. They were advanced technologies and society around, so whoa. The way that's folding at this corner makes me think of Australia. I wonder if that's going on. Like if essentially like here is like a nucleus, a large particle, really big particle right here. That current's just kind of late deposited material around. There's a lot of flows like that. I mean, this in general is a nucleus of the continent of Australia, that region. Like the entire crust rests generally upon that like central pillar, and then another one over here, or here maybe. This one. And then is supported like also one over here. But generally more supported overall by the rest of the region, where these are just like basically nuclei. They're big particles, basically, is a good way to put it. So like the odds of them having other big particles around them is high because they're such big particles, to a point where it would make sense that the big particles around them would then have currents flow between them and do something very much more of that, like of this nature. Was that it? It's a little further. This nature, where it has this like solid mass there. The currents flow around but don't like actually shape. They shape around. They take the shape of as big Lysagang rings. Lysagang ring. Australia. Let's see. I'm sure they are all over the place in Australia, no doubt. Just a waterfall, lava fall into a... Let's take a look, though. They're just probably everywhere in Australia. Incredible. Oh my god, what is going on? Oh. North, South Wales? New South Wales. What? North, South Wales. North, South. New South Wales, okay. So that is over here. It's not even here. Although maybe it's more visible on an outer ring region than the larger scale ones, maybe, that are too big on to just like... Wow. Let's see if we can find... Northern Territory, Alice Springs, maybe, or something like Owen Spring. This one, let's check out. Or this one, actually. This one looks more like it might have. See, like that definitely doesn't have the same appearance at first glance of Lysagang rings. Maybe though, like that's what's going on this type of rock. Just it's so large scale, it's not even, doesn't even resemble the same anymore. Which this looks a lot like Western United States. I might as well be looking at pictures there where the red rocks are. Interesting polygonal shape there. Here. 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 Like they seem to have like hexagonal shapes pretty regularly. Like I can kind of tell that they resemble the types of features of the Lysagang rings. This is interesting, this row. Very much reminiscent of... Is it this? I think it's, there it is. Like this. Which I've talked about in Shalogram videos. My Shalogram playlist. That's all I can say about that. It's too much information. Oh my god, that's gorgeous. What in the... Look at the colors. What? What a picture. Bravo, Paul. De Croix. I don't know. I don't know why I made it French. De Kraus. Kraus. Really nothing resembling me. Lyson gang rings. In the same way as those pictures right here, where it's clear as day throughout everything. Maybe not this one. Like this. Like they're just everywhere. To the point where there's no denying it. Here, there's denying it, right? It's not as clear. Even though it is like the heart of it all. That's crazy. Certainly there are the features. It's just the colorations, the like it's kind of like ammonites versus shalograms. Ammonites are kind of like a lesser formed material out of a different material, so they tend to be more brittle, like more like that. I've referenced his video, pardon me, many times. Maybe I'll try to minor Ivers versus shalograms, which are, I just feel bad to not like reference things that because I'm like, will I remember to put links in this? The more I talk about other people's work that I would want to link, the less likely I am to link them. Especially when I've already done it like several times. It just sucks that because like people can stumble on like this video and not like look at that for that video, I do reduce the totality of people who would have had easy access to that video, and to a point where at least maybe one person who would have clicked the link didn't at some point along the way. Although I like to think that people will someday will get past all those things and just kind of like, because people are so interested in all the topics and information, they'll just be like exposed to all the potentials enough to really see where things are like coming through from a portal from another dimension, of course, which really is the fun part of it all. Like here, that's what it looks like, maybe. Where above it looks much more like this. Much more like this from above. So if we could really get like a zoomed in picture look at this structure, it might, like, on a different plane of existence, resemble much more like this. Okay then. Okay then. Okay, back to this, I guess. Let me just speed this back up to normal speed until something's more of interest. Well, it looked almost like it was normal at the time, and now it's back to normal. It's way faster. Whoa, could you imagine that flowing at you? Ah! Although you'd probably have to be pretty close to everything else. Okay, then now this is certainly sped up. So maybe their videos are also sped up. This seems more like it's sped up because it has to be low, and those might not have had to been. Whoa. Just, whoa, the way it just did that. It like lifted and then moved over. Like it's physically, okay. This is very insightful. Like imagine Australia is resting on top of this, like still forming layer of oceanic crust that underlies the entire crust pretty much. And it's just physically is moved by the currents though. And then the currents come in, fill in around, and then just move like chunks at a time and then uplift the entire chunk. Entire thing uplifts and then boom. And then it fills some more and then moves to like it's restabilizing. That type of thing happened in Australia where this ammonite feature was like restabilizing its nucleus. Like it was up here, then it moved down like this way and swept through this way, and then went all the way up here and out to basically to here, just creating these like nuclei along the way that novaed. I presume they were very rapidly occurring nuclei that just stabilized for a second practically and moved on like radioactive decay steps until a new stable one that was more over in the right position of underneath what would end up being Australia, while over here kind of was able to break into smaller chunks where like dendritic features of the ammonite were occurring, which was then shaping these islands here and here are like the dendritic back that were here and here when Australia was basically being shaped. Here they were kind of sitting here along this stretch. As I've talked about, this here, this from here to here to here, and then down to here, which then this, I believe, might have physically wrapped around and then connected to generally down here, maybe even this side, maybe this side, and this was probably folded in, although maybe it just got carved out instead, and it generally has its shape still, so that like this connection was generally maybe down here. Hard to say exactly, but essentially this was here. With further attachments off to the side through here. But then this whole chunk moved somewhere in this stretch. It physically moved from over here down this way. Didn't reposition. Some segments are, it's just details. A lot of details. It's one of those things where like hundreds of thousands of people across generations have been working on the consensus, but that doesn't mean it's like a better approach than something that's actually true. Just because the details are not as filled in as 100,000 people across generations with the funding and support of the world working together as a collaboration could do, doesn't mean that it's more valid than the actual truth. If someone were to be like, discover the actual truth and be shown the actual truth and rebroadcast it into the world, then that would mean that it really would be the work of an individual, practically, relatively speaking, and therefore would not have the same amount of like sheer quantity of just details, but not like, it wouldn't mean the details weren't fill-inable. Like they would be fill-inable and rapidly, and in like just continuous string of breakthroughs kind of way. And but still, like, there's so much information to account for that it doesn't, there's always more. There is always more. That's how reality is. That's why it's awesome. So these things going on here though. Okay. Oh yeah, I was muted. I was just saying, I forgot what I was saying, so. Okay, as much as that's really just kind of hanging out, burning stuff. Just kind of hanging out. Okay. Whoa. Whoa. Those drips. Oh, let's go back to that. Coming in a narrow channel. This may be reminiscent of Papua New Guinea under South America. Even literally under South America, maybe. The way it's popping, like little flakes off. That's crazy. What? I'm gonna slow that down. They're like popping off the side of the cooler portion. It looks like, but like off the side, kind of along the boundary where the currents are like pushing against it more. Like there. Like that's how it ruptures. It's just literally rupturing, but one little flake at a time. Current. Chunk. Just a bunch of folding currents atop one another. The way they wrap in like these ropes really forms as ropes that are like Velcro. Like Velcro of different sizes, where there's like one piece of Velcro, but then it has a bunch of Velcro of smaller sizes that and larger. So like to the point where there's like a Velcro strip here, Velcro strip here. And that's what Earth does. It just makes a bunch of little Velcro strip things of different sizes that then kind of latch onto one another and take shapes. This is not moving, so it's hard to say, but it's rounded. The way this is shaping maybe is like the tendency for a current to run into some resistance, some mound. Basically a current running into a solid mound that it can't just push. So instead it goes around its sides. So it opens around it, widens around it, takes multiple paths. One path is like a higher, slower path. The other is like the lower, faster path. Why? Like where the majority of the current is forced through. I don't know if it's necessarily higher or lower, but in that instance, it seemed to be. And that's just what, like, the hand of God, the pillars of creation, image, and just everywhere on Earth. Like, it's all over the place. And I've talked about that extensively. So, like, to see it just in currents, like in passing, where the currents are just kind of, it's just one current flowing that then branches out, wraps around a mass. I don't know what to make of, like, water plus lava interactions, like, what to think of it. I wonder, just a thought, at its boundary, maybe because it's like cooling the rock and like basically the heat of the lava is put into the cool ocean that hits it and starts to create steam. And then the steam rises. So at this boundary of water, lava, where they meet, steam rises, but then lava solidifies and probably just like precipitates down in a similar way as the steam is going upward. And maybe even functions the same but opposite in some ways, where there's like clouds that accumulate an equivalent that are like magma chambers that then like flow and at times can like erupt in a way where they just fall to the earth, i.e., erupt to like the crust and kind of just drop driplets on it, but it's not necessarily through it unless it's enough of like a lightning strike eruption to be like a volcano. Like energetic enough to be like crossing the boundaries between planes into our plane of existence, not just below it, where a lot of this stuff is just going on underground below our feet all the time. Which is crazy. We're just kind of hanging out. Fucking down there is all this shit going on. Maybe it's not real, you know. I don't see it now. I'm just sitting here in this chair in this house and this, I don't know. Dang. Whoa. Oh my god, look at the way they heat even the water boils like from the outside in. We need some more waves. We need some more waves. No. Whoa, it moved it. What? Just slid it away. Did I seriously just slide it away? Like it got caught in the water and it's still just gushing. Oh my god, that's crazy. Just venting. Psh. Pardon me while I burst into flames. Had enough of this world. These people's mindless games. Pardon me. I can't sing. Okay. That lava. So it like holds on here. Forms a like a slow flow here, and then like the rest kind of flows out atop it though. It just keeps doing that all as it goes, and as long as there's enough current. Whoa. I can't believe they even managed to get a shot like that. That was incredible. That was inside. They must have been all like... How did they get close enough to see that? Oh my god. The little bits, little flakes. Oh, it pulled it up. That was interesting. It's here, down on this chunk that this is rolling onto, and it flakes it off and physically uplifts it on top of it. What the... I've never seen that happen or noticed it or considered that kind of thing to possibly be a thing that could happen. Like, really? Like, what the fuck? I guess it must have... Was it a backward? It must have been generally rolling from below. Okay. Interesting. This one is kind of opening upward from below. Oh. Like the current is actually over here. It's coming out. It's kind of overwhelming the top, but over here it's really flowing from below. Which is probably because it's like a side current off of this current that's producing a different like flow path, the opposite, kind of like gears. One gear goes this way so that this gear can go this way, and then they go opposite. Whoa, though. Seriously, that's crazy though that it does that. Physically strips material off and overlays it. Just opening the zipper, bonds breaking. Bubbles. Bonds breaking? No. Bonds breaking there. Really flowing out there to widen in like a fanning way. Just bubbles up. Boop. Separated there. Pardon me. Oh, it's just popping. Oh, and it's even popping in front of it just from the heat. Looks like. It's doing it again from below. Bond breaking between these two sides. As it becomes rounded, maybe? Oh, Lord. Whew. Just a row. Steep fall off here. This is probably what was happening at the edge of the continents, where the mantle flowing underneath them ended up severing them, then between them, like it was literally just flowing into the fill a empty space of what became the oceans, but like probably just falling into an abyss to do so. Whoa. Just splattering those little bits. Oh, big bits there. Holy crap. Holy. It's a little frightening. A little frightening. Just hot. They're just hot. Oh my god. Okay. Closing in on the actual end of this somehow, even though I only watched a couple minutes before, like 30 minutes. uh, Lots of cool stuff. Not, I'm just looking for things more like related to what I've been talking about, and maybe shed some light on those for myself as well. Uh, Dear God, what is happening there? It's like falling into somewhere. It's going somewhere. Okay. Might as well play their credits. 2012, Hilo? Lava has slowed significantly. Okay. With that in mind, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.